Oh. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurudeva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hari Om and good evening from Pittsburgh. The three brothers, Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura, all had their own challenges. Dhritarashtra was born blind, Pandu had a skin condition, Vidura was born in a less structured family. Yet Vidura is remembered as a great thinker in the Mahabharata. Pandu is one of giving great sons. And Dhritarashtra, not for being physically blind, but for being mentally blind. Each of these brothers is remembered. Many times when we think of Dhritarashtra, and you can picture that Mahabharata serial, it would be, why me? Sometimes we also feel that. Whether we say it or not, we think, why me? And we say this with such desperation. But Pandu and Vidura, it wasn't a why me with desperation, it was a why me with inquiry. Why am I like this? And what am I supposed to do with this opportunity? And on and on and on. This is the difference between facing life and building life. Facing life is reactive. It involves complaining and criticizing and crying. But building life is proactive. It's to slow down the complaining and criticizing and crying to focus on contentment. And you see this in these three brothers. You see this in the brothers in the Ramayana. Vibhishana, Ravana, Kumbhakarna. It doesn't have to do with context. It has to do with content. Through this course, we all need to develop courage. The courage to be objective. We use courage and we leave it loose. We leave it undefined. But here I'm sharing, we should develop the courage to be more objective. Because there's nothing to fear but fear itself. For the one who's objective, fear is a thought. For someone who is not objective, they project that fear, they make that fear real. Vices are eternal. They are universal. Being lazy is never going to be a strength. 100 years from now, it's not going to be who uses the snooze button the most. That person is going to be the president. And virtues are also eternal and universal. We say Satyameva Jayate. And there's no year assigned to that. It's forever. The person who's objective, they make virtues important in their life. Those who lack objectivity, vices naturally grow in their personality. Last week we studied that what we're studying is most special. It is life-saving, it is life-making. And if you're going to study a special knowledge, you have to be a special student. And the characteristics of a special student is someone who is honest. Right now we just completed a satsang on sadhanas for parents. And the first sadhana that all of the parents unanimously said that is needed is being more patient. And then I asked, how many of you are patient? But honesty, right? Honesty is there. With honesty, we also need humility. The one who is humble learns. The one who is not humble thinks they know all. They should be teaching. And we should be hopeful. Hopeful means I'm ready to ask for help. In my travels, many people have chanted this shloka for me. And I'm happy with their efforts. Most people have chanted it very well. And in that memorization, at least they know which shloka talks about being a student. As they memorize this, they'll think about it some more. Finishing this thought on being a special student, all of you, now all 154 of you, are more special than Prince Arjuna. And I'm not sharing that. Context is. We are luckier than Prince Arjuna because think about how Prince Arjuna learned. It's northern Bharat, so it's hot. There's millions of people in front of him with arrows ready. There's millions of people behind him with arrows ready. By accident, he may get hit by someone on his own side, correct? And this is his family that he has to fight with. We think if you just have to tell a family member to correct themselves, how much anguish comes with that. So Bhagavan Krishna is there, and Bhagavan Krishna is speaking in Sanskrit once. And at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says again, can you teach me again? And Bhagavan says, no, that was a one-time deal. Now think of us. You didn't even have to leave your home. Leave alone go to Kurukshetra. You're sitting in your home right now, where there's heating or air conditioning. You're studying Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is in Sanskrit. You have an English commentary, which they made a lesson plan out of, and then I'm speaking on that, and you can record all of this and ask questions. So aren't we luckier than Prince Arjuna? That's the special student. Honest, humble, hopeful. We now get into chapter 1 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 1, we begin to understand the nature of the mind. The nature of the mind is samshaya. Samshaya means doubt, indecision, confusion. That's simply the nature of the mind. Not your mind, all minds. We know this when it comes to eating. We're full, but we're indecisive about whether to eat or not, and we always eat more, correct? There's confusion about that. When it comes to working, we come back from our errands or work outside, and there's more to do at home, but there's confusion. I think my body's tired. I think I need a break. And then day after day, that accumulates. And making this more deep, our doubts intensify when it comes to the karma phala. See, we already have confusion about karma, but then this confusion becomes more when we feel like the karma phala will bring death or the unknown or sorrow. If I project that I do this work and what may come out of it is death or change, unknown or sorrow, then I'm even more confused about all of this. So right now, Prince Arjuna is experiencing bhaya. He's afraid. He knows how to shoot arrows. It's not about the karma. He's now bringing in the karma phala. If I shoot these arrows, what will come with it? Death will come with it. Unknown, what will happen to the future? Sorrow. Dhritarashtra won't be alive. Bhishma won't be alive anymore. He's bringing all of this. This bhaya is not being checked. So the bhaya devolves into shoka. Shoka is anxiety. Arjuna is feeling anxiety and that's not being checked either, so it devolves into depression. Bhaya, shoka, moha, fear, anxiety, depression. And I began this discourse sharing that we need to be more objective. Arjuna should be focused on the karma, not the karma phala, correct? And if he was just focused on the karma, if he was more objective, his bhaya would have been checked right there and there would have been dharma. But there wasn't. And if you read the details of the shlokas in chapter 1, it describes how Arjuna's skin is. His skin is burning. You know when someone insults us and we don't want to be insulted, your ears become very hot, your skin becomes very sweaty. It's like you have the flu, even though you don't have the flu. He says his mouth is parishushati. It's not dry, it's extremely dry, like unnaturally dry. And his eyes, he starts seeing things that are not there. Omens and different patterns of the wind and animals and all of that. He's hallucinating. Bhaya, shoka, moha. None of this is objective. Why is his skin burning? Why is his mouth dry? Why are his eyes so distracted? When you and I treat objects as objects, there is no fear. When you treat an object as an object, there is no fear. Is your car an object? Is your child an object? In this context, yes, okay? You don't. I gave birth to 2 objects in my lifetime. They are, let me finish the thought and it'll make more sense. Is your skin an object? All of this is an object. And that's because you are the subject. You, the deepest part of you, life, is the subject. Living is the object. Life is the noun, living is the verb. So the car and the kid and the skin is all living. It's all an object. In chapter 1, we see that not happening. And this is so beautifully portrayed to show us how if you don't learn all of this, your skin will also burn. Your mouth will also be dry. Your eyes will also be distracted. We are learning how to think. Swami Tejamananda shared that countless times when we were studying. More important than what to think is how to think. And what's so fascinating about this, who did Prince Arjuna study with? Bhagavan Krishna. Who did they study under? Rishi Sandipani, correct? All of us have gone through the Foundation Vedanta course, the Advanced Vedanta course, now the Bhagavad Gita course. Do you feel more fearless, less anxious, less depressed? You're all saying no. You're afraid of the question. So Arjuna studied all of this, but has not studied all of this, is the point. We study so much, but have we studied so much? Shravanam is not mananam. Mananam is mananam. Learn how to think, not just what to think. If you know what to think, you know the karma kanda. But if you learn how to think, now you're tuning into the jnana kanda. Prince Arjuna has come to Bhagavan Krishna out of desperation. We come to the Bhagavad Gita course, we come to self-development out of inspiration or desperation. Now, by a quick show of hands, how many of you have come to self-development? How many of you have been part of Chinmaya mission or this Bhagavad Gita course out of inspiration? Okay? Desperation? I said honest. Remember, we already studied honesty. I'm glad that more of you are here out of inspiration than desperation. Either way is good that we're towards self-development. Arjuna comes out of desperation. Very different than the Shishyas in our Upanishads who come out of inspiration. They're proactive. Arjuna out of desperation, he's reactive because we can relate to it more. Our rishis are visionaries that are incomparable. He's come so we can relate to this. And when he sees the challenge in front of him, what is described, what he feels, paraya kripaya avishtaha. Paraya means the highest. Kripaya. What does kripa mean? Grace or compassion. Avishtaha. He's overwhelmed by compassion for his family members, for the challenge in front of him. Is Arjuna experiencing fear out of compassion? Do those, when I feel very compassionate, I start to feel afraid? He knows this is not the truth. He says it. I'm feeling overwhelmed by compassion. That's why my skin burns. That's why my mouth is dry and I'm seeing things. He knows he's not being honest. And Bhagavan Krishna also knows he's not being honest. Acharya Gaurang had shared that we all have PhDs. PhDs in what? Justification. We all justify our fear, our anxiety, our depression. We justify our vices. I'm like this because of my kids. I'm like this because of my spouse. Arjuna is an expert in justification. And that's why when you read these shlokas, we feel like, yeah, I would have done the same. Arjuna's teaching Lord Krishna, you know? But Bhagavan very astutely doesn't even speak. Because anything he says, the debate will begin. So he chooses silence. And when Arjuna is honest, he surrenders. But he surrenders with conditions. He surrenders with conditions. Think why. He surrenders with conditions because he doesn't know Bhagavan is the best. Right now, the person in front of him, he doesn't call him Bhagavan Krishna, he calls him Krishna and different names like that. Later on, he actually feels like this is Bhagavan. We say Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Arjuna didn't say Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. But he's so low, he's at the bottom, that anyone above him is someone he can look to for help. So he surrenders to Bhagavan because Bhagavan is above him. But he doesn't know Bhagavan is the highest. So he does surrender, but surrenders with conditions. When you and I surrender, we have to remove those conditions. Surrender should be with no conditions on space. Our surrender should be infinite. There should be no conditions on time. Our surrender should be constant. Not I surrender today, but tomorrow I'm back. Our surrender should be with no conditions on matter, so we say unconditional. So infinite, constant, unconditional surrender. This degree of surrender is surrender of dependency. As long as there's conditions, there will be dependencies. But once there is no condition, there is no dependency. That's what we want, correct? Do you want to be dependently joyful? Do you want to be dependently healthy? All you want and or need is independent. Arjuna's is not there yet. Not there. All we're used to is worldly surrender. Our worldly surrender is I'm weak in the world, so I surrender to someone who's stronger, but they're worldly too. I'm incomplete and they're just a little bit more incomplete. A little bit less incomplete. But what is finally being experienced still? Incompleteness. Can your mayor complete you? Can your boss complete you? Now we have lots of spouses studying together. Can your spouse complete you? Look at me, don't look at your spouse. This worldly surrender is what we're used to, and that's why we surrender with conditions. Because we're so used to surrendering incompleteness to incompleteness, we know it doesn't work. But now we have an opportunity to surrender completely, but we're not used to it. We're not trained to do that. What surrender should be is not surrender to incompleteness. It should be surrender of incompleteness. Surrender of incompleteness. And this is so beautiful because Prince Arjuna does finally surrender incompleteness, but he's trained to do so. Through 18 chapters and 700 shlokas, he constantly trains himself to let go. When there's a drop and there's an ocean, and that drop is afraid of surrendering to the ocean, is because that drop only knows space, time, and matter. But when that drop surrenders to the ocean, that drop assumes the measurements, the magnitude of that ocean, which is infinite space, time, and matter. Worldly surrender is, I become less. I'm weak and I become weaker. But when it comes to self-development, surrender is I am less, and by surrendering, I become infinite. You go straight to infinity. This is all brought out right in the beginning of chapter 1, because without this, without chapter 1, chapter 2 is not as real. We're not as engaged or intense with chapter 2. And this shloka again, honesty and humility and hope. A few mornings ago, I'd posted a reflection adventure of the day, where I wrote, when I was immature, I believed in a master plan. Many of us, when we're immature, we believe in a master plan. This is how my life is going to be. But as you become reflective, become a student, I believe in the master's plan. It's no longer my master plan, it's the master's plan. And for all of those people with more experience, more reflection, that makes more sense to you, isn't it? That you did this, but this happened. But it happened for the best, right? And as you mature more, as you become wise, it's not that you believe in a master plan. It's not that you believe in the master plan. You just believe in the master. The plan means nothing. There is only the master. What's one of the most common questions in Vedantic forums? It always comes up when question and reflection periods. When did it all start? How can this be practical? Free will or destiny. God's will? Or fate or free will? That's a very common question that comes up. Arjuna right now, like us, believes in free will, but he will grow up and believe in God's will, but he'll grow up more, and then what will he believe? God. God's will still implies some sort of movement and change and effort. If there's just God, there's no God's will, and that's what I mean by you just believe in the master. As I share all of these thoughts, ask yourself, have you surrendered before? If you surrender, how did you surrender? If you've surrendered fully, how did that happen? What propelled you to do that? And the secret to all of this is to know Bhagavan is the best. In the satsang we just completed, one of the sadhanas for parents is to develop vision. A visionary parent knows what a priority is for themselves, for their spouse, for their family. That vision comes from knowledge. The more you and I study what Bhagwan is. You study the glories of Bhagwan. You know Bhagwan is the best. Then surrender becomes, you do so with clarity and conviction and confidence. There's no conditions there. Surrender. And we are luckier than Prince Arjuna because we have 20 months to do it. He had 700 shlokas to do all of this. We have 20 months to train ourselves to do so. You don't have to wait that long, but we do have 20 months. And that's almost a problem of Sanatana Dharmas. You know, we believe in many lifetimes, but if there was only this lifetime, we would work hard and get enlightened. What do we all think? If I don't do it this lifetime, there'll be another lifetime to do it, and another lifetime to do it, right? God is great. He'll wait for me. Don't do that. Be Arjuna from chapter 18 rather than chapter 1 and 2. Oh.